the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, TCJA. That was scheduled to expire at the end of this year. And we don't think it will expire. We've been talking about a rolling recession since the Fed started jacking up interest rates in 2022 for 3 years, a little more than 3 years now. We believe we've been in a rolling recession, and we're coming to the end of it. So that's the good news. The bad news is we do have to go through this process. Bottom line, however, we think after this initial shudder that the equity markets are going to look through whatever the next 6 months holds in terms of economic activity into a future where we see productivity driving real GDP growth at an accelerated rate in an exciting way. And at the same time, inflation continuing to come down because productivity is going up. Productivity is a powerful antidote to inflation. And we think we're probably on the threshold of some of the most important productivity gains in history. So just wanted to set the stage this way. Before we go on, what is happening in these first 6 months of the year? As you know, there was a lot of hope coming out of the election that we were going to be on our way in terms of the equity markets' health and the broadening out of the equity market as a sign of its health. And it has begun. But as always, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So let's talk about the 1 step back. In terms of fiscal policy, from our point of view, the most important proposal out there right now is the $4.5 trillion tax cut that did make it through the House. They passed a budget with a $4.5 trillion tax cut in it. And that's in addition to the $1.9 trillion tax cut that is part of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, TCJA. That was scheduled to expire at the end of this year. And we don't think it will expire. This $4.5 trillion is on top of that. Now, you must be wondering what the heck is going on here. That just sounds like a bigger deficit, a bigger hole out there. Well, those numbers are over a 10-year period. But I think one of the most important things we're learning is that the tax rate cuts themselves will be retroactive to January 20th. Now, that's not cast in concrete at all, but we have heard in and around the administration talk of retroactive tax cuts. Why is that so important? Well, we learned from the Reagan Revolution that phasing in tax cuts is a recipe for a very deep recession because people and businesses defer economic activity in order to capture the lower tax rates. And so I think this administration has learned from the Reagan administration that phasing in is not a good idea. So that is very important in terms of information. The Senate version of the budget is not out yet, and then we'll have to go through a reconciliation. I think what's so interesting about the way that President Trump has set this tax cut up is in terms of what people know is going to take place, and I think the president repeated it in his session to Congress this week, no taxes on tips, Social Security, or overtime. Now, those tax benefits are very appealing to the lower and middle class which tends to benefit from those three sources of income. And so President Trump and team cannot be accused of favoring the rich. I think the other thing we're going to see here is that the threats and actual reality of tariffs, which is causing a lot of consternation. I do not like tariffs. They are tax increases. But I think that the president, and we'll get into this when we go through the charts again, the president is hearkening back to the early days of our country where tariffs actually supported the government. The primary source of income for the government way back then was tariffs. And then, of course, today, tariffs account for very little funding of government spending, and income taxes account for most of it, business and consumer.